Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you. This is Darshini from KaarTech. Thanks for joining our webinar on Fundamentals of RISE with SAP, hosted by KaarTech, co-hosted by Albilad and Bhaskar. Today, we have Vaidehi Srinivasan, SAP Digital Transformation Head with more than 25 years of SAP expertise. She is a pioneer in reconstructing and deconstructing complex SAP landscapes based on your business requirements. She is also specialized in handling digital and landscape transformations. Let's take a glimpse of today's agenda. First, we shall look at what is an intelligent enterprise and how to build your intelligent enterprise. Secondly, we shall deep dive into the journey of RISE and its deployment options specific to your industry. And then we would cover the transformation journey using Tern.Al. Finally, about KaarTech success stories. With that note, I hand over the session to the speaker for today, S. Vaidehi. Here you go.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and a very good afternoon to all of you who have taken the time and effort to join us in this webinar today. I would be briefly covering 4 topics like already mentioned. I start off with the intelligent enterprise, then jump into the various business components that you would have to have in place to be able to embark on this digital transformation journey, followed by a one-on-one connect with the components of RISE with SAP. And then I would talk about the digital transformation platform, Tern.Al, and how we at Kaar Technologies use this DXaaS platform when we assist our customers on their digital transformation journey and beyond. So to start with, we hear this word intelligent enterprise very often. So by definition, an intelligent enterprise is a sustainable enterprise, and it has to consistently apply advanced technologies and best practices within agile integrated business processes. And to be able to use this, the intelligent enterprises would be using modern cloud-based technologies like AI and IoT. And to use better use of their data, they will also be getting real-time insights about operations, market environment, and customers. So rather than calling this a digital enterprise as a product, I would rather call it as a mindset that involves using modern strategies and processes, which is powered by an intelligent suite of technology solutions. Primarily, the move towards an intelligent enterprise, it has been spearheaded by innovators and disruptors, and it has been fueled by technology at the same time. And entire industries are being transformed as we speak today. While the transformation is driven by a small number of industry leaders, what happens is it completely changes the rules of the business success for the entire vertical. Therefore, virtually every organization in the world is experiencing drastic shifts in the way they operate. And those that don't get on this bandwagon get laid back. Basically, why this drive into being an intelligent enterprise happens is because the customer's expectations of products, services, and experiences are much higher than ever before. And at the same time, employees demand more transparency and have been trying and striving for more value-added roles. And also running a sustainable business becomes the key. And corporates will have to live up to the corporate responsibilities and that's becoming very critical. And all this has to happen while we don't cut the cost of operating margin. So as a consequence, what's happening is more and more companies are on a constant journey to reinvent themselves in terms of the products, in terms of the experiences they offer, their way of unlocking new sources of revenue, and entering into emerging markets, their understanding of efficiency and productivity, as well as the role the customers expect them to play in facing and solving environmental and social challenges. All these expectations primarily lays the foundation for an intelligent enterprise. We might be at different levels on where we are in this journey, but primarily these are all the factors that is driving us towards being an intelligent enterprise. Moving on to the drivers for transformation. Basically, business leaders know technology is the key. And all along, we've been thinking about an IT strategy and a business strategy. And all of us have been realizing in the last couple of years that the IT and the business strategy are one and the same. So we'll have to align the IT strategy with the business strategy to be able to embark on this journey. And the threat of not moving into this transformation journey is very visible. And the drivers that is accelerating this transformation is primarily because of the risks that we see around the corner. And we'll have to identify these risks and react while there is still some time to do something about them. And to ensure future stability and success, there's also a need to get and use the data that you've collected so far and guide you in making strategic decisions. And many organizations would have traditional silos, many applications that are silos within the organizations. And they could be holding back the business because you have the data, but you really don't know how to use the data to move forward. And so then there comes the need to be able to actually connect the processes across systems. So if you have having traditional silos or independent applications, all the processes will have to be interconnected, and also the data has to be interconnected. And once that happens, you have better customer experience and streamlined operations. So rather than waiting to be disrupted, ideally, we'll have to start disrupting our own sectors and re-innovate ourselves. And the ability to continuously invent new approaches and implement them rapidly through technology is very essential to getting ahead, staying ahead, and leaving your competitors behind. So those primarily define the various drivers that come in for a digital transformation. So when I talk about an intelligent enterprise, I see basically three components, and they're highly interconnected: the intelligent suite, the intelligent technologies, and finally the digital platform. So what is the intelligent suite? It is something that should enable automation of commonly used business processes, as well as better interactions with your customers, partners through intelligently enabled applications. And then the technologies is responsible for embedding this automation into your core process. So you might have a core ERP process, but then you will have to build some intelligence around them to be able to actively use the data and understand your processes. And that will help you detect the patterns and react quickly. And finally, the third part is the digital platform, which facilitates the collection and connection of data and processes, as well as integration and extension of processes, because you might not always have a complete end-to-end process in one application. It might run across applications. So you need the ability to move data from one application to the other, and the process has to flow seamlessly. And thereby, you're able to predict outcomes and suggest actions based on all this accumulated data and process flow. So when I talk about an intelligent enterprise framework, the question is, how do you get there? We talk about all these components that should be there, and how do you eventually get there? So to be able to do this, based on our past experience, that we've been in this journey of digital transformation, and we've worked with multiple enterprises, both big and small. Based on this experience, I would like to share with you on how you can embark on this journey. Finally, the intelligent framework has to necessarily provide you the foundation to break down the silos that we talked about and adopt dynamic cross-functional business processes and deliver optimal experiences. So if I were to break down this into further subcomponents, the first one is the technology platform. The second is the sustainable business solution to help businesses understand and manage the impact on people and environment. The third is a manageable solution where you can apply leading edge industry best practices. So if you've been on ECC or any other ERP applications and you're used to doing your process one way, it is about time that we rethink how this process is being done and adopt to industry best practices, so you can get the learnings of other enterprises in a similar industry. So you will have to adopt to the industry best practices and also be able to extend the current business processes, because that industry best practices might not completely satisfy your requirement. And the fourth is you need that platform that provides the ability to gain insights into sentiments and feelings of customers, employees, and other stakeholders. And finally, the ability to continuously transform business process. So once you put something in place, you will have to continuously monitor those processes and be able to adapt to changing needs outside and inside the organization. So you'll have to continuously analyze, model, simulate, automate, improve, and monitor these processes. And all this should happen in one single platform. So your technology should be able to unify all this at every point of interaction and integration. So once you have all this in place is when you can embark, and you have to strive to get all these components in place. And RISE with SAP typically helps you do that, because all these components have been addressed with each of the individual items that is available to you with RISE with SAP. So we talked about the intelligence suite. So here it is the SAP S4 HANA Cloud, which will be at the core, handling all the core processes. In addition to SAP S/4HANA Cloud, you already know that SAP offers another all the suite of applications which supports end-to-end business processes. So which will address all facets of an organization, including employees, products, customers, finance, spend, IT. So when you have an embedded analytics, which is also built into this S/4HANA Cloud, you get a 360-degree view of the business. The second is the industry cloud. So this industry cloud solutions are available to you in SAP S/4HANA Cloud based on which industry you're on. So it could be just a choice that we've given there as automotive, consumer products, and so on. Here, this industry cloud delivers highly verticalized and innovative applications for specific industry and verticals. So this will enable you to discover and deploy the vertical solution from SAP and partners, because partners also provide you solutions, SAP partners, for areas that are not available in the core solution. Then we talk about the BTP, or the business technology platform. And why we need that? Because that provides you the common architecture where it delivers a uniform master data layer. And it's based on the cloud. And it helps you integrate between SAP and non-SAP solutions, or even between SAP on-premise and cloud solutions. And it also provides you the extension capability with either low-code or no-code extension capabilities. So you can innovate faster and you can stay lifecycle compliant. And then we talk about the human experience management. To be able to make the right decisions, business primarily have to understand what people want and how they feel. So experience management solutions provide insights into the sentiments of feelings of employees, customers, and other business stakeholders. Then comes the business network. So this business network takes you outside the four walls of your enterprise. So where you can collaborate seamlessly with trading partners to drive connected processes and experiences. The SAP Business Network assists businesses in digitalizing cross-company business processes. So connecting with your vendors, your suppliers, and your contingent workforce, and so on. And finally, the sustainability management. SAP solutions available for sustainability are able to help customers understand and manage their impact on people. So how each customer is very different. So with the team the people that you have joined here, you might have a very unique start. But Rise with SAP, along with our transformation experience, will take you to the destination, even though the start could be unique. Why is the start unique for each of us? You could be an ECC customer, and you could have, or you could be a digitally grown startup where you have already embraced some standardized processes and cloud architecture. But then you have to ensure that your solution can scale and grow, and also you push forward at an increasingly fast pace. Or you could be a traditional ERP customer, could be ECC, non-SAP customer as well, where you've been an on-premise system architecture, and you have delivered, this system has delivered to you for decades, but it carries a very high cost, and that is limiting the ability to adapt and innovate quickly. Or there could be other customers who already embarked on this digital transformation journey by using modular ERP cloud applications, but they are in the very early stages, and you're not able to envision how you take the next step. And there are some companies that start at the outer edge of the business and moving selective markets or processes or businesses into the cloud. And now you have to understand how to link all these outer edge solutions to your core. So finally, the point is, irrespective of what your start is, we know the destination is one goal. You want to get to the intelligent enterprise framework. And Rise with SAP is more a business transformation as a service, which helps you move forward. Now I'll break down the components of Rise with SAP to be able to help you where you start, because we know there are a multitude of applications, services, hosting options that you have for Rise with SAP. So what do you need to know first, irrespective of whether you are on an ERP application, either on SAP, non-SAP, or you have your own custom-built applications? The first step is we'll have to decide on the business process. You would already have a business process, so we'll have to understand the existing business process, and you have tools for that. So we'll have to understand the to-be and understand the assets, and then envision the to-be based on your industry. And this is the right start for any business to embark on this journey, because this is the time for you to adapt and innovate rather than continuing with your existing obsolete business processes. So once this has been agreed and signed upon, is next the solution SAP S4 HANA Cloud. We call it the SAP S4 HANA Cloud because as a generic term, because that itself is a product, and you have various options of that solution. It could be a private, it could be a cloud, it could be SAP S4 HANA deployed on any premise, the details of which I'll come a little later. But okay, so this is your core of the product. And now around the SAP S4 HANA Cloud, you start adding the components of BTP. So why do you need BTP? You might want to integrate S4 with other third-party products. You might want to communicate processes in S4 might want to communicate digitally with other parties or governments, or you would like to use other partner developed products or even your own customized application. So this is the gateway between SAP S4 and any other application, be it SAP or non-SAP. And why should you use this rather than building your own interface is because you already have a number of pre-built integration packs in almost about 2,000 plus. And you have multitude of connectors available in SAP BTP. And you have a number of pre-built analytics content packages available. And you have workflows, you have defined end-to-end content workflows. So these are some ready-made things that you could use in SAP BTP. And what are the technology benefits that I get from using BTP? You can extend your existing product because irrespective of what is available in S4 HANA, you might want to extend that particular application to add your own processes there, or you might want to extend it to your new users. You might want to modify some functionality, and all this to be done at minimal maintenance cost. And like I said, a multitude of partners are providing these solutions across multiple industries. So you might want to use what is already available, and that's available in BTP. And with BTP, you only pay for the use services. So you don't pay for the entire platform. You pay to SAP depending on what are the pieces of BTP that you use. So once you have decided what your integration platform, the pieces of the integration platform, next comes the business network. Why is the business network essential? So when you look at the current global economy, it has evolved more into a network economy, I would say, because irrespective of what the core of the business that you do, you may be using contract manufacturers. You might have supplier networks that could be multi-tier deep. You could have logistics service providers. You could have maintenance service providers. You could have service providers to provide you contingent staff. And even you have network of things because the products and devices have gotten smarter now. So you want to gather the information from there and start using that information and be able to understand how they're performing. So to be able to leverage the entire network of partners, we will have to have this business network. The idea is you have outsourced a lot of it, but you definitely want visibility into what is happening there. So you want to understand the supplier network beyond just the first tier. You want to collaborate with your manufacturing and asset service partners. You want to serve your customers through distributors, resellers, wholesalers, but you need visibility. So RISE offers 3 areas here. The first one is the Ariba network, which is used during sourcing to collaborate with suppliers, the asset intelligence network, and the logistic business network to track product shipments to customers. So once you have identified one or more of these, like I said, you decide which ones you want to start off with and slowly add more components into your intelligent enterprise. Then we have the Cloud ALM. The SAP Cloud ALM is not only what gets used during the journey, but then you need it even after you've gone live, because it's going to give you the power to detect problems, including alert management and automated corrections. You understand the health of the system and the efficiency of your operation, not just the technical efficiency of your system, about how the system is performing, but actually the business process efficiency. It gives you end-to-end transparency for users, integrations, applications, and business processes. It helps you with root cause analysis and also be able both at the business process level and at the technical level. And then it enables operation automation by event-driven or regular triggered operation flow. So based on a particular activity, you want a slew of other activities to be performed. So you can build this all around Cloud ALM. And then you have the Launchpad service. So why is the Launchpad service important? Because now we've spoken about various systems, various repositories. They could be heterogeneous, meaning they could be SAP and other third party. And each of them are using a different UI technology. And you could have some on the cloud, some on-premise, meaning they are hybrid setup. And you have multi-channel. You have some processes being accessed from within your network, some from outside your network, some on the mobiles, and so on. So you have to provide a seamless customer experience. And that is achieved by this Launchpad service that's also offered. And then finally, where are you going to host your SAP S/4HANA Cloud? Traditionally, if I were to take you back 10 years, then most of it was on-premise or in your own data center. And then we slowly moved into IaaS, where you found IaaS providers for you to host your SAP, because that was not the core of your business. You wanted to concentrate on your core. And now SAP S/4HANA Cloud is available to you as a SaaS product as well, where you're given licensing based on the users you use, and you follow some standard practices, best processes, your standard configuration. But then there are customers who cannot live with that, so you have various flavors of it. So primarily, depending on which flavor of S/4HANA you use, you decide on where you want to host it. So it could be your DC, it could be a hyperscaler DC, meaning it could be on Azure, Google Platform, AWS, Alibaba, or so on. And after this is done, so at this point, I would say you would think your digital transformation, and then you have implementation partners like us who help you implement each of these components. And at this time, you would think that your journey is over, but it has just begun. Because once you have all this in place, you start continuously monitoring your processes, so you can start improving on the existing processes. And then you will have to enable your entire enterprise to be able to adapt to this new environment, because that is the essential step to succeed in a business transformation. So Rise with SAP provides you tools for learning and adoption, the Learning Hub, the SAP Enable Now. So these are components that are provided to you for your employees to be able to learn and adapt. And then the cycle of business process design goes on, because you're going to maybe acquire a couple of more companies, bring in more processes into SAP. So this is the sequence of how you will go with Rise with SAP. So certain customers might just do the SAP S/4HANA Cloud, put it on the infrastructure operations, and that is your start. But the BTP, the business network, how you capitalize and use on Cloud ALM, how you enable the Fiori for the Launchpad service, all these things happen in smaller doses as you proceed, after you've put the basics in place. At this time, any questions you have, you were told, you could ask at the end of the session. So now I talk about reasons on why people decided to move to the cloud. So moving all SAP workloads to an IaaS provider. So primarily for performance, data protection, and easier backup and restore, because given the size of the data that we collect, so that becomes very critical. And moving to SAP HANA itself is for scalability, because the cost of the hardware, trying to maintain the hardware, and being able to scale up when required. So that becomes very critical depending on more users or more data getting collected, and as you innovate, you're going to bring in more modules. So it is always easier to stay with a provider who can scale you up a lot easier than you doing that whole exercise. And for a specific IaaS provider, so if you wanted to go to the three top things that based on IDC research that people look for is for security, better experience of moving there, because each of these AWS, GCP, Azure, Alibaba, so each of them, even though the underlying structure is the same, how you get there, how that journey is made is very important, because you're already live and you want to make this seamless to your end users. You want to make it seamless to the business. So, and the availability of these data centers across regions is also critical. So this is based on an IDC research, and there are some valid reasons that customers believe that they would continue to stay on premise. Complex integrations has been one thing that has come up in multiple of our discussions with customers, because they have not just SAP but other non-SAP, other cloud solutions, and they say these integrations are already so complex, and we have all these little applications that we have homegrown applications. They're already talking to our existing ECC. So now when you move to the cloud, what's going to happen? A couple of things could happen. Maybe those functionality that you had in your existing homegrown applications, they could be satisfied in SAP. Or if they're not there, now you have the capability to extend SAP to bring in these applications. You can build these applications very easily, and that way it seamlessly integrates. And for those that you have to continue to hold on to, you have BTP, which integrates both data and processes across applications. And there are some customers who have their existing hardware, could be Hana, mostly not with Hana, but they're on SQL or Oracle. They have their existing hardware and it's not yet reached end of life. So they could be considering, okay, let me wait until I reach end of life and I have no more support for this hardware, then that could be the right time for you to move. And there is a general notion that if the entire hardware is on premise, I have better control of it, but not really, because once you give it to a provider, like I said, scalability becomes very, very helpful. And then compliance, because certain data regulations, compliance, you might want to keep it on premise. So all these factors do get considered when we talk about RISE with SAP, because RISE with SAP on the cloud seems to be the most viable option. So what is the struggle that we're talking about when we have go to for this move? Primarily how you time your move to RISE with SAP, either from ECC to S4, or you could be on S4 already, but you want to get into this RISE with SAP package and move forward to the cloud. The timing, because that has to align with the various business happenings that you have in your organization, other projects that are happening. So the timing is very important, and it's not a very short project. So we'll have to consider all the frills and thrills of moving into a new area. And then the cost of the project and tools. Talking about tools, there are a multitude of tools that you will have to look at, that you would have already looked at, are very confused about how do I effectively use all these tools during this migration and in my transformation journey. And if you're already in production, how are you going to make this seamless? So talking about tools, I think the last 10 minutes of this webinar, I'll talk about the tool of choice that we have that helps us make this journey very seamless, a lot easier, and a very platform which encompasses the entire journey of transformation. So now that we talked about deployment models, which one is right for you? So how do you decide? Let's say do you first ask yourself, as a business, do I want to move my applications to the cloud? If as a business you don't want to move forward, then it's S/4HANA on-premise with your BYOL license, your own licenses. If you decide to move on the cloud, the next question I would ask you is, would you prefer a SaaS model, or would you want to have a heavy level of customizing? If you can't go with a SaaS model, but you want to have control over your customizing, your extensions, your development, then you could choose to go with S/4HANA, but you can host it on the cloud. And then if you decide to go on the SaaS way, because your licensing is going to be based on the users, then comes the choice of whether it's going to be private or public. Private is more suited for customers who have a high level of process complexity, and they want to still want to control over the processes. They want to be able to customize their processes a little more than what is presented to them in a public cloud. In a public cloud, you just take what is given to you, but for the extensions, you use the BTP. So primarily, if you walk yourself through this flowchart, you would get a fair idea. And when we do our assessments with our prospective customers, we go through each of these steps in a very through workshops, not just from the IT, but along with the business to understand the need. So basically, SAP S/4HANA is provided either as a service or as a product. As a service is when you take the SaaS option of the public or the private cloud, or as a product, you are able to host it on any premise, on any infrastructure. Primarily, the difference is the level of standardization. More standardization when it's as a SaaS, less standardization when it's as a product. The scope upgrades, all that is taken care of when you're as a SaaS, rather than as a product, then you will have to decide on your upgrades and keep current. Again, the degree of flexibility is just the inverse of that. You have more flexibility on the product when you go as a product. So here I try to compare the first row here is the public cloud. Then you have the private edition, followed by any premise. With the public cloud, you get this core ERP functionality with the best practices. And then this is hosted by SAP. Here, I talk about a couple of ways of getting there. So there are three ways, either the greenfield, brownfield, or the selective data transition. I'll tell you which of the three options will fit for which kind of customer at a high level. And then the ability to extend and configure, and the upgrade. So public cloud, like I said, you have fixed upgrades. You don't have much to configure. You don't have much options to configure, but definitely the extensibility framework is available. And then you can primarily do greenfield. Greenfield meaning a new implementation where you go with the cutover data, or some selective data transition where you decide, maybe if you had 10 years of data, you say, I would just want to go with a year of data. I want 2 years of data. Then the private edition gives you a little more flexibility where you can do the brownfield migration as well, meaning you go with all of your data. You have your own landscape. You have access to expert configuration on the IMG, and you have access to the extensibility framework. But then your upgrades of the software, you can control the upgrades. The last one is any premise, meaning you have complete control. It's like your own system. It's just that you've posted it elsewhere. So you decide the frequency and schedule of upgrades. Updates are not mandatory, and then you can do your custom development. You can have add-ons, you can have multiple things. Even in the private edition, you can have add-ons, but there's a limit to what whitelisted add-ons. And you can host it in any IaaS provider of your choice. So like I said, these are the standard ones offered with rise to SAP with GCP, Azure, AWS, and Alibaba. Now I move on to the transformation journey. So I talked about brownfield and greenfield a little earlier, but I would like to tell you what each one of this is. Greenfield, on the extreme right, you see greenfield. So greenfield is for new customers who have not stepped into the world of SAP. It could also be for ECC customers who are ready to have a fresh implementation from scratch. Why would they do that? Because they feel their existing process has to be redesigned completely. They're not, and they don't want to carry all of their old data into the new system. So this is a huge business transformation exercise, and along with that comes with the change organization that has to be in place, the training, and you're not going to take the historical data. You just go with the cutover data and custom code. So depending, you might have tens of thousands of custom code earlier in your ECC system, but you realize that you're not using them all. And what is the purpose if those functionality has been provided by SAP in S4? So you just use rebuild what little you need and then go with your cutover data. So that's what we call it as a green. Everybody calls it as a greenfield on the extreme right. On the extreme left is the brownfield, which is also called a system conversion. So this is for customers who have their data. They want to go with all their data. And as the first step, they say, okay, we'll continue with the existing business processes that we did in ECC, except for those mandatory changes that S4 demands, like business partners, like the GL and stuff like that. That definitely has to be done. We will do that, but other than that, we'll continue with our existing business processes. And later, after we have gone to S4, after we have stabilized, we'll start looking at each process and then do the transformation. So this is definitely another approach, but this I would recommend for customers who are very keen on keeping all their data. But is that data really required is something that we question you during our assessments and try to make sense of what is the purpose of this data. Is it just for reporting? Have you ever used this data, and how do you plan to use this data? And in this case, much of all the custom code gets retained, and then you have to go through the exercise of adapting the custom code to S4, and the testing that is involved is a lot more extensive when you do the system conversion. In between the green and the brown is the selective data transition. SAP provides you this option of selective data transition with a couple of SDT partners, where you get to choose. On closer to the brownfield is you want to use the processes, but you don't want all the data. So you continue to use all your processes. But if I had 20 years of data, I say, please carve out 3 years of data for me. So I'll go with 3 years of data, but the existing business processes. So that's the shell conversion. This again involves all the custom code that has to be retained. You get a choice of historical data, how much you want to keep. It could be sliced based on year, company code, organizations, whatever. And business downtime, you're able to optimize on the downtime, because with system conversion, when you're going with 20 or 30 terabytes of data, your downtime could be huge. So here, with the selective data transition, you have options to minimize on that. The mix and match is for those organizations who want partially, they want to keep some business processes, partially they want to take some data. So we sit and work with you on these workshops to decide what is it that you need and why you need it. We just don't take what you need, but we also try to understand why you need it and how are you going to use this in future. So these are the various ways by which you could get to S4 on the cloud or S4 on any premise. And this is an expertise that we have in terms of working with you to suggest how this can be done and why it should be done. And like I said, the last, I would like to explain to you how we do this as Kaar Technologies and how Tern Tern.AI, our digital platform, addresses all the areas of transformation ahead of the journey, meaning the assessment, during the journey, how we use Tern.AI, and post the journey, how you can work with Tern.AI to make this experience very effective. So Tern.AI is primarily a SaaS-based digital transformation platform, and it addresses all the areas of transformation. It offers its expertise of transformation journey classified into 5 buckets: the maps, the projects, the process, the labs, and the minds. And each of these will address specific areas during the transformation journey. And depending on where you are in this Activate methodology, you would be using multiple components of each of these pillars. So what is digital maps? Primarily, this is an automated business case generator. You have assessment bots, you have fit gap wizards, you have the risk predictor, you have the TCO estimator, and you have the optimal business case generator. So it tries to understand, connects to your system, tries to understand your existing business process, and provides you an optimal business process when you move to S4. And it also provides you the digital transformation roadmap simulator. So this maps gets primarily used a lot during the assessment and also post-journey when you want to fine-tune your business processes. Digital processes, the third pillar that you see here, it has the SAP GSI scope item bot. So you're able to identify which are the scope items that you want to go live with. So this is more also for new greenfield implementation. You have your BPML wizards. You have ability to understand the custom code remediation wizard, which is very essential for to adapt your custom code when you move from ECC to S4. Then you have your training academy, because you need to know who you should train, what you should train them on, so on. So that is also very important when you go on this transformation journey. The digital projects, it's a collaboration platform. It is for the enterprise project execution, where the customer, the business users, we as service providers, we all collaborate on that platform. We have workflow wizards, you have a timeline simulator, it's a collaboration forum, you have dashboards, so you completely control your journey on this platform. And digital labs. This is primarily an automated SAP testing suite, and it is very essential because any transformation journey, a lot of effort is put into testing and remediating and fixing those defects. So you have the test case finder, you have automatic run bots that test, that you can schedule your tests. You have the defects wizard, and with all the projects that we have done, we have a Hana PDF where we have documented all the issues that could come up in various business processes, and it provides you solutions also. And you can manage your testing cycles using the digital labs. And finally, the digital minds, which is the automated business consulting pillar, where you have the business operation cockpit, the process mining wizard. So it mines your data to tell you, okay, this is where you should put more of your effort on. So this is your company code that gives you maximum purchase orders. So that is where, and so it helps you prioritize and be able to understand your business process. And also, when you talk about Fiori and the customer experience, there is a lot of tens of thousands of Fiori apps. You don't want to do them all. You want to select what you want to do, and you want to train the people on only those areas. So Fiori adaptation itself is a separate roadmap, and the digital minds helps you there. And this Tern. So when you start this transformation journey, there would be thousands of questions that you have. It could be across all these topics, on the business, on the users, communication. How am I going to handle the customizing? What is the simplification that comes? What is the level of data that should be tested? How is the training to be done? The processes? How do I align with the strategic alignment? How do I do the project? So these are just some questions that you see here that get addressed during the assessment. And before we ask you this question in an assessment, most of this data is gathered from the system using Tern. And with that data, when we do the workshops with you during the assessment, a lot of it comes, where we're able to make sense of all the data. And if you look at these questions, and if I were to plot it on a spectrum, you would see both strategic and operational questions here. So, but all these have to be addressed, and I would say this is about 10 or 20% of the questions that we address during our transformation journey. So, with the data that Tern collects, we are able to make sense of your existing systems, make sense of the data, and help you move forward. Tern is completely non-invasive. does not need probes or plugins. It just sits on your desktop and connects to the system and makes sense of all this data. And like I said, during the assessment, we go through the assessment in these phases. There we do a value discovery, then we help you with the POC preparation. Outcome is business and strategy roadmap. Give you a business scenario report, and all the data that we collect during the assessment comes in handy, which gets passed on during the actual transformation project. So that is very, very important. The reason being, without all that, it would be too hard, because you just want to do an assessment and all that data has to be reused. So the assessment goes through these phases, and then the actual execution follows is by activate, and all this data gets reused. So when you have all these possible, once you have done the assessment, we have a bunch of things that we could advise to you as mini projects. Like, you could complete your BP implementation, you could activate the new GL. What are you going to do about your material ledger? Is there some archiving, scope for archiving that you could do? What about the add-ons? So these are some small steps. What are your BTP requirements? What are your transformation landscape requirements? What are the systems that you need during the transformation? So all these get addressed during the assessment itself, thereby minimizing the risk. And all these line items that you see on the slide are mini projects that you could do ahead of your transformation. So this helps you in preparing for your transformation itself. So primarily, like I said, we talked about RISE with SAP, its components, how it's a business transformation of as a service, how we at Kaar Technologies engage with RISE with SAP and also with our customers to be able to take you on this journey along with our Tern, to be able to automate this journey with RISE with SAP. Okay, I think we have one more poll at this time. So before I move on to the success stories or the use cases that we did for RISE with SAP. So this is, do you want a free demo of Tern.AI, which is our assessment and automation product for digital transformation? We'll let you answer that, and then quickly move on to success stories that we have with RISE with SAP. We have many more, but I'll just touch upon two for want of time. I think we have another 15 minutes, so I'll try to wrap that up really quick. So, and then start looking at your question. Yeah, for those of you that had requested for the demo, we'll definitely reach out to you so we can schedule that demo with you. So rather than the RISE with SAP, again, it's not just an upgrade like you did a EHP upgrade. It's a new way of working when you go from ECC to S4. And rather than talking about ECC to S4, I would rather, the language and discussion should always be around business transformation as a service. And it's not just a path to the cloud. It offers you a lot more. It is a strategy offering business that has to happen, and a complete mind change of perspective that happens. So, and we, along with SAP, we bring to you the service starting from the assessment. And we have performed numerous assessments for enterprises, and we've been able to lay down the roadmap for the transformation. So the first one that I have here is the RISE with SAP, which went on a private cloud for a manufacturing industry with and the areas of automation that we were able to provide them were around finance and controlling and risk management. There was more enhanced productivity with better business insights after S4 was implemented, and risk tracking and better resolution, and done with SAP Activate methodology, and a lot of automation around work orders. So this helped them improve their business process efficiency. Employee count of about customer had about 201 to 500, and I believe the implementation time was somewhere between 5 to 6 months, and post that additional areas of innovation also happened. And the second one was for a upstream oil and energy company, and it was primarily they were an industrial engineering, maintenance, and manufacturing services. So a lot of work around the projects, how the project tracking of projects and schedule adherence, how they were able to track the project costs post go live. EPPM gave them a complete control over the above, with seamless integration across multiple modules and their group companies. So this was SAP S4 HANA Cloud, public cloud. So we were able to do that implementation. And the way SAP S/4HANA public cloud projects happen is very, very different from a typical SAP project. So this is the two success stories. Okay, at this point, I hand it off to Darshini to give you a brief about Kaar Technologies.
Here's a quick note about the host and sponsor for today's webinar. KaarTech, one of the world's best SAP digital transformation consulting and services partners. KaarTech was started in 2005 by four friends, Maran, Ratna, Selva, and George. Their bond of friendship has channeled to each member of the organization and has been at the core of why KaarTech has been able to stay in business for the past 16 plus years. And through the 16 plus years of pure play SAP excellence for KaarTech has completed 2000 plus projects for 350 plus global enterprises in Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, Bahrain, United States, and UK. The key SAP portfolios of KaarTech includes SAP S/4HANA, Rise with SAP, SAP SuccessFactors, SAP Ariba, SAP Analytics Cloud, and SAP Business Technology Platform. Today, KaarTech is a market leader in Middle East and an emerging leader in the US and UK for digital transformation consulting and services. To know more about KaarTech, please visit our website at www.kaartech.com. For those of you interested in engaging further with KaarTech, the next step after this webinar would be discuss on potential synergies over a call and complete a discovery session where we can have a demo if required, and finally get started with the SAP engagement.
Thank you. I have just 2 minutes more, so I would like to thank all of you for staying with me through this webinar, and I hope it made sense. And I would look forward to hear from you on any other areas. And for those of you that have requested to be contacted, we'll definitely do that. Thank you and have a very good day.
Thanks for joining our webinar. Have a wonderful day.